Hello again, everyone. Welcome to Washington Gun Law TV. I am Washington Gun Law President William Kirk. Thanks for joining us. Hey, I really in the first 3.5 years, I think I did about a half dozen videos about the Biden administration itself. In the last month, I came to be doing one over and over and over. Why is that? Well, because what has been one of the most disastrous presidential administrations in American history is ending with a bang and not in a good way. No, this president continues to embarrass himself, and worse yet, continues to bastardize and destroy America's judicial system. Now, we've already had to talk about the pardoning of his son right here, and then we had to talk about all the other pardons and commutations he made. Then we had to talk about letting 37 people off of death row, and one would think, my God, could it get any worse? Well, guess what? It has. It has gotten a little bit worse, and we're going to talk about that today. So today, let's spend a few minutes and let's talk about the president who keeps taking a hatchet to the judicial system. Okay, hey, before we get going too far down the road we're going down, let's remember that this video is being brought to you by the Sonoran Desert Institute. That's right, get ready to launch your career in the firearms industry today. Get ready to start arming yourself with education today. And most importantly, get ready to start defending the inalienable rights of millions of Americans nationwide, all through our most powerful act, which is, of course, education. Listen, they got a degree, a certificate, or a program for just about anything that you may desire. So for more information, check them out in the description box below, or easier yet, just go ahead and visit them at sdi.edu. Okay, America. Hey, listen, here's what we're going to talk about. One of the most common questions we get here at Washington Gun Law is, why does it take so long for everything to get through the court system? Okay, it's an excellent question, okay? And there's lots of reasons why everything takes so long to get through the court system, but one of them is court congestion. That is, we continuously try to stuff 100 pounds of crap into a 50-pound bag. Now, if you wanted to make the court system more efficient, have easier access to justice, have more efficient administration of justice, something that is not a conservative or liberal issue. This is an American issue here, okay? There's only two ways to do it. Either one, you have to reduce caseload, but I have not figured out a way to control that yet, or you could, in fact, just increase the size of the judiciary. And as the country has grown exponentially in the last few decades, the judiciary has not really grown at the same pace, okay? Now, I'm not a huge fan of creating more government, and I know most of you are not either, but I am a huge fan of having an accessible and efficient judicial system, and we are lacking that right now. So, along comes a piece of legislation that was actually supported by both Republicans and Democrats. In fact, it was also supported by all of the people inside the judicial system who would know best. For example, people like Judge Robert Conrad, the director of the Administrative Office of the United States Courts. Gabe Roth, executive director of Fix the Court, a judicial watch group. Judge Michelle Childs, president of the Federal Judges Association, and a Biden appointee. Okay, so what would the Judges Act do? Well, the Judges Act would have created about 100-something new judicial positions, which would have been phased in over the next 10 years. It goes to the Senate. Again, it's got huge bipartisan support, and it passes out of the Senate no problem whatsoever. That was sometime in the summer. Case goes over to the House. It kind of ricochets around there for a while. Nothing really gets done. And then this happens. Okay, and all of a sudden, there is going to be a change in the presidential administration. And despite the fact that the bill had come out of the Senate with a huge amount of Democratic support, once it gets to the House and once the 2024 presidential election is concluded, suddenly all the Democratic House lawmakers, well, they don't seem to be too interested in the bill anymore. And it stalls and it stalls and it stalls, and it finally gets voted on. It finally gets put to the floor, and it passes. But it passes because it has almost exclusive Republican support, a handful of Democrats who supported it, and it passes out of the House by the narrowest of margins. Okay, but good news, right? Because now we're going to add about 100 judicial positions to the federal bench between now and 2035. But here's the problem for the Democrats. Is that about the first 24 of those judges will be appointed by who? Well, of course, the President of the United States. And that's Donald Trump, which means that Donald Trump would actually have approximately 24 new federal court appointees that he will be able to appoint to the bench during his last 4 years in the White House. Okay, so what does President Biden do? Yeah, he vetoes the bill. That's right. he vetoes the bill that was passed with strong bipartisan support out of the Senate, goes to the House and passes there, is promoted and endorsed by people on both sides of the aisle, including individuals that he's appointed that are in leadership positions amongst the federal judiciary. And what does President Biden do? He vetoes the bill. And he vetoes the bill for one reason and one reason only, and that is he does not want the incoming president to have those 24 additional judicial appointments. Representative Todd Young, a Republican of Indiana, and one of the huge sponsors of the bill, called this move partisan politics at its worst. Well, it most certainly is, especially when you consider how President Biden has prioritized other last-minute decisions he's making as it relates to the criminal justice system. Let's start with, of course, the pardoning of, well, his son. You know, the one that he promised he would never, ever, ever pardon, and he was going to let the judicial system play the course out. Well, no, he changed his mind on that. And then, of course, that was followed by the biggest act of clemency in the history of the American presidency, where over 1,500 people were either pardoned or had their sentences commuted. Then, of the 40 death row inmates we had in federal penitentiaries, 37 of them just last week had their death sentences commuted. And now this act. But here's what I want you to think about, America. Here's what I really want you to think about. And I think you ought to probably send this to your liberal friends so that you can get an answer from them. Who's making these decisions? Do we honestly believe that President Joe Biden is making these decisions? If he is, hey, it would be consistent with all the other horrible decision-making that's gone on for the last 4 years. But the word on the street is that the president really is not that functional during morning hours, and he's really not that functional during evening hours. And there's a very short window of time around the lunch hour to the mid-afternoon where the president's gears all appear to be kind of firing. Okay, well, listen, for any of you who've had parents, unfortunately, that had to go through, again, a cognitive decline like what President Biden is clearly going through, you will know that, no, they are not real good in the morning, they are not real good in the evening, and if you're going to get a couple of good hours with them, it's going to be in the middle of the day. Are we to suggest that the president went through all 1,500 of those people and decided to commute their sentences? Are we to suggest that the president went through all 37 of those death row inmates that he decided to commute sentences on? Are we to suggest that the president even remembers the Judges Act or what was going on? And do we recall, President Biden, that at one point you supported this act and now you ended up vetoing it? So the real question is, who in the White House is making these decisions when right now the White House resembles Weekend at Bernie's? Listen, I encourage everyone in the United States House and Senate to go back to the drawing board to redraft another piece of legislation similar to this and to pass something, because we absolutely positively do need to improve and increase the size of the American judiciary. Otherwise, we're going to continue to get cases that we're going to talk about here on Washington Gun Law, where you take a look at, oh, this case was filed in 2013, and here we are in almost 2025, and the case is still kicking around. Listen, if you got any more questions about this or anything else related to what's left of our Second Amendment rights, you guys should know how to get a hold of Washington Gun Law by now, but if you don't, that's okay. That information is down there in the description box. If you got an idea for a video we should be doing around here, cool, tell us all about it. Click on that link right there and let us know. If you want to subscribe to our monthly newsletter, the ability to do all of that is down there in the description box. And then finally, and most importantly, let's remember that part of being the lawful and responsible gun owner, like we talk about all the time here, is to know what the law is in every situation, how it applies to you in any instance that you may find yourself. Until next time, thanks for watching. Stay safe.